The Antichrist. The Antichrist is a significant figure in Christian eschatology, often associated with the end times, the return of Christ, and the final battle between good and evil. The concept of the Antichrist is derived from various passages in the Bible, particularly in the New Testament, and has been a subject of intense interest and interpretation throughout church history. Here's an overview of the Antichrist based on biblical teachings. 1. Who is the Antichrist? The Antichrist is generally seen as a false Messiah, a leader who will rise up in the last days to oppose Christ and deceive many. In Christian theology, the Antichrist is considered the ultimate embodiment of evil and opposition to God. He will attempt to lead people away from the truth of the gospel and establish his own counterfeit kingdom on earth. The term Antichrist is used directly in 1 John and 2 John in the Bible, where John refers to false teachers and individuals who deny the divinity of Christ. However, the figure of the Antichrist in the most dramatic sense is often associated with the end times, particularly through the descriptions found in 2 Thessalonians, Revelation, and Daniel. 2. Biblical references to the Antichrist for John 2:82. Dear children, this is the last hour, and as you have heard that the Antichrist is coming, even now many Antichrists have come. This is how we know it is the last hour. This passage refers to the idea that the spirit of the Antichrist has been active throughout history, but there will be a final, singular Antichrist figure who will arise in the end times. 2 Thessalonians 3:4. Don't let anyone deceive you in any way, for that day will not come until the rebellion occurs and the man of lawlessness is revealed, the man doomed to destruction. He will oppose and will exalt himself over everything that is called God or is worshipped, so that he sets himself up in God's temple, proclaiming himself to be God. Here, Paul refers to a figure known as the man of lawlessness, who will exalt himself above God and be a key figure in the rebellion against Christ. Revelation 13:1-8. The beast I saw resembled a leopard, but had feet like those of a bear and a mouth like that of a lion. The dragon gave the beast his power and his throne and great authority. People worshiped the dragon because he had given authority to the beast, and they also worshiped the beast and asked, "Who is like the beast? Who can wage war against it?" The beast in Revelation is often associated with the Antichrist, who will deceive the world, perform counterfeit miracles, and demand worship. He will speak against the Most High and oppress his holy people, and try to change the set times and the laws. The holy people will be delivered into his hands for a time, times, and half a time. Daniel's prophecy speaks of a ruler who will oppose God's people and try to change the very laws and times that God has established. 3. Characteristics of the Antichrist. Deceptive and charismatic. The Antichrist is often described as someone who is capable of great deception, drawing people away from the true faith. He will likely present himself as a savior figure and use charisma and charm to deceive many into following him. One of the most defining characteristics of the Antichrist is his opposition to God. He will claim to be God or exalt himself above God, seeking to receive worship that belongs only to God. This is described in 2 Thessalonians 2:4, where the Antichrist sets himself up in God's temple, proclaiming himself to be God. Persecutor of believers. The Antichrist will have a special focus on persecuting Christians and anyone who refuses to worship him. He will seek to destroy the people of God as described in Daniel 7:25 and Revelation 13:7. A time of deception and tribulation. The arrival of the Antichrist will be a time of great deception, hardship, and tribulation for the world. Many will be led astray by false signs and wonders. Christians are urged to be vigilant and faithful during this time, as described in Matthew 20:24, for false messiahs and false prophets will appear and perform great signs and wonders to deceive, if possible, even the elect. 4. The role of the Antichrist in the end times. The Antichrist plays a central role in the events leading up to the return of Jesus Christ. He will rise to power during a period of global instability and will establish a false peace, often described as a false covenant. This is particularly significant in the book of Daniel, where the Antichrist is seen as making a 7-year covenant with Israel that will later be broken. The tribulation. The period during which the Antichrist will rule is known as the tribulation, a time of unprecedented suffering and hardship for the world, particularly for believers. This time will culminate in the Battle of Armageddon, where Christ will return in glory to defeat the forces of evil. The second coming of Christ. Ultimately, the Antichrist's reign will be short-lived. The Bible promises that Christ will return to overthrow the Antichrist and establish his kingdom. In Revelation 19:22 it says, "But the beast was captured, and with it the false prophet who had performed the signs on its behalf. With these signs he had deluded those who had received the mark of the beast and worshipped its image. The two of them were thrown alive into the fiery lake of burning sulfur." 5. The mark of the beast. A well-known aspect of the Antichrist's reign is the mark of the beast, described in Revelation 13, verse 16 to 17. It also forced all people, great and small, rich and poor, free and slave, to receive a mark on their right hands or on their foreheads, so that they could not buy or sell unless they had the mark, which is the name of the beast or the number of its name. This mark is associated with allegiance to the Antichrist, and without it, people will be unable to engage in normal commerce. It symbolizes complete loyalty to the Antichrist, marking the division between those who worship him and those who remain faithful to God. 6. How should Christians respond? Be alert and prepared. Jesus and the apostles warn Christians to be vigilant and prepared for the signs of the end times. We are called to hold fast to our faith and not to be deceived. Matthew 24 says, "Therefore keep watch, because you do not know on what day your Lord will come." Live in hope and faith. Even though the Antichrist will seem to be a powerful force for evil, Christians are reminded that Christ is ultimately victorious. We are called to keep our eyes on Christ and remain faithful, knowing that the final victory belongs to God. Trust in God's sovereignty. The Antichrist may be a tool of evil, but he is still under God's control. Romans 8:31 reminds us, "If God is for us, who can be against us?" No matter the power the Antichrist seems to have, God's plan will prevail. The Antichrist represents the ultimate opposition to Christ and his kingdom, but his reign will be short-lived, and his end will come at the hands of Jesus Christ himself. For Christians, the presence of the Antichrist in prophecy is a reminder to stay faithful, stay watchful, and stay grounded in the hope of Christ's return. The Antichrist serves as a warning to the world about the dangers of deception, and to believers, it is a call to remain firm in our faith and to trust in the promises of God, knowing that the victory belongs to Christ.